We had an executive committee meeting, Zoom meeting today, to discuss a few topics. But the one I want to discuss with all of you is the decision that was made today to move the Prep Classic out of New Orleans and to Northwestern State University. Over the course of the last 7 to 8 weeks, there's been continual dialogue between this office and the management team, SMG AMS, which manages the Superdome, and the Smoothie King Center. And we watched, as you all have, through the course of this shortened football season, where we were going from living our lives from 14-day to 14-day to 21-day to 21-day to where it came week to week, and then it became day to day, and then the last 2 or 3 weeks of this football season, it came to hour on what could change at any hour, where games would be scheduled, and for whatever reasons that maybe there wasn't a game scheduled. So I think in the grand scheme of things, I want to start off with my open saying that I want to congratulate all the coaches, the athletes, all the sports medicine personnel from A to Z that's kept this football season moving. The regional doctors in cooperation with the schools, dealing with minimal and sometimes maximal information as it comes to not only the potential contact with a positive case of COVID-19 to a positive case of COVID-19 to the contact tracing, all the things that our people, your people you've been working with, have been working with since we started summer football in June, as well as all of our fall sports. So kudos to all of those individuals, as well as all the coaches of the fall sports that are already in the book, including the communities that surround those. The families have done an incredible job. Just everybody has got us to where we sit here today. The last stone that needed to be turned was the one where we were going to play the championship. And you follow the numbers of COVID, you follow the cases, you watch the numbers rise and fall, you see what happens after when it comes to after a holiday and how the numbers increase, and you see those increases now. What it boiled down to today was we had a conversation a week ago. I had a conversation with some of my executive committee, but also it boiled down to how many people are we going to be allowed to have in the facility? And we weren't able to get an answer. And today there's still not an answer. But let me say this. I remember the feeling like it was yesterday of what it was like to be in the Burton Center in March for state championships and be told last minute, well, you can only have this amount of people for the girls' state championship games. And then later, 2 to 3 days later, told you can only have 250 people last minute. And I and my staff were in that facility where it was just basketball teams, their coaches, and what little staff we had there. That feeling is stuck in my mind and stuck in my gut, because parents that were there had been down there, had already went to one game, a semifinal game, which the people were, I'm exaggerating by saying hanging from the rafters, but we had good crowds. We were anticipating good crowds for the boys' championship games on Friday and Saturday. And I had to tell everybody through media, you can't get in. You got to go to a restaurant or someplace in Lake Charles and sit and watch it via CST or whoever was streaming it. That sucked. I kept that in my mind and my heart. And I felt as though I don't want that to happen again. And it looked like it potentially we could wait and see what's going to happen in New Orleans with the local government, what decision might be made. Wait and see what decision might be made by our state government. But at the end of the day, waiting and see wasn't going to work for me, because if we waited and we weren't able to, or we were limited to 3,000 or limited to 1,000 or limited to 750, you've seen the teams that have come to the Superdome in the past. You've seen the crowds that we've had. And I said before, we can't really delineate single ticket sales for games or single attendance for games. As we know, we had large crowds that accumulated over Friday and accumulated over Saturday for those games. That wasn't going to happen at the Superdome this year because of restrictions. But because I didn't know who we could or couldn't have, or if a restriction could affect contact sports, maybe at the high school level, which could still happen. And not knowing, there's no way that the plan B would be, worst case scenario, we we scatter, we go 9 games across the state at home sites at the highest seed. And in my opinion, that is not a championship type feeling. And these athletes, in my opinion, have earned that. So I think what it boiled down to today was a decision to be made that we have something now that's etched in stone. We have a site, Shreveport, Bossier, Natchitoches, that area is all in Region 7 of the epidemiologists and the regions assigned by the governor. That section is above a positivity rate beyond, I believe, 10 at the time, but Natchitoches Parish itself is not. And we're going to work our way through that process. But as we sit today, that is a facility used, and it has been used by Natchitoches Central and St. Mary's as a high school venue. We will be at 25% occupancy for that facility, which would give us about 4,250 per game, ticket sales per game. We don't have to choose who can be there, who can't. For the smaller classifications that may not bring as big a crowd, but will bring everybody in their city to those games. That capacity will fulfill that. And you've been to the Dome more than I have and know what games have what, depending on, it really doesn't matter the time of the day. But I will tell you this, that what we've agreed upon and what I was given direction on, it will be a 4-day, not a 3-day, but will be a 4-day event. My specific staff and myself are traveling to Natchitoches to meet with their team Thursday to discuss the format, the days. We will not be playing on the 26th. That will be a day of travel and setup. No one's going to have to travel on Christmas Day. That'll be a day for travel and setup, and we'll play Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. As I sent out to the membership, the format, who's going to play when and where, how many games are going to play on a day, that's under construction. We want to see who's going to be there. Travel distances, want to take a lot of different things into consideration when we set this up, because not everybody's going to because of COVID, is not going to want to spend the night anywhere. They're going to be putting themselves in charter buses or yellow buses to travel. And we're going to take all of that into consideration in this in a unique scenario, in extenuating circumstances that's surrounding this year's Prep Classic. Dr. Chris Maggio and the Executive Athletic Director, Greg Burke, I reached out to them at cross country. So just as recently as cross country, would they be interested in potentially being a plan B? Explain to them the process. They knew that from the get-go, okay? And I was going to kind of wait and see, but we don't know what decision or when that decision is going to be made in New Orleans on what we could or could not do. I wasn't going to leave this thing hanging in the balance. And I know that I remember how it felt to have some of that piece taken away and telling who can and who can't come in a facility. And unless something drastic comes down from the state of Louisiana, I believe what we decided to do will benefit the athletes and will give them a championship venue feeling. Now, you and I both know we are not comparing apples and apples when it comes to venues. The Superdome is not only known in the state of Louisiana, in the nation, and is also known worldwide. It is the New Orleans Mercedes-Benz Superdome. You can't change that. We understand that. I'm a Dome guy. I've stood in front of many of you and talked about the Dome, and specifically when it came down to the split between select and non-select. The Dome was an experience for kids. I understand that, and it makes my gut hurt to know that we can't give them that experience. But I felt as though it was more important to ensure they were going to get a championship in front of fans versus not, and potentially having to do something different than what we felt would be a good championship venue, which we pride ourselves on in hosting good championships, good venues, the best we can do, and our working relationship with Natchitoches, our state cross country, and what that city does for us while we're there had a deciding factor on why I reached out to them to discuss potentially being the plan B, which is now obviously turned into plan A. That's I'm open for questions if anybody would like to ask.
You said in the press release that financial responsibilities is one of the reasons. Could you explain that one, please?
Yeah, when we go to the Superdome, the costs of the Superdome are on the north side of over $500,000 to host the event there, and we work with gate receipts and other expenditures. But we also, years past, we were not able to fulfill all we paid our bills, but weren't able to also give schools guarantees that are in our Constitution and bylaws for travel and deferring those costs. That was a piece of that as well. So we were able to get back on track with that. And at the end of the day, we're looking at potentially selling at the Superdome. The average has been between 39,000 and 45,000 ticket sales, which there was no guarantees we're going to get that, because even at 6,000 allowed at one point, which could very well turned into 5,000. And then as of today, I'm hearing that New Orleans Bowl and others may be even limited less than that. The numbers, Doug, just weren't going to match. We weren't able to fulfill our obligations and pay our bills, and we can fulfill that by going to Natchitoches and Northwestern State University.
So you were averaging 40 to 44,000 ticket sales total in the dome?
Well, actually, the average was between 37 and 42. It just depends on the matchups. And you know how that works. It depends on the matchups and who's playing who and so on and so forth. But that's what we've had in the past down there. And again, you might see on any Friday or Saturday down there, 18 to 22,000 people sitting in the lower bowl. Well, that was accumulated all day long from noon till that point, and we had no way of delineating how many ticket sales would be. I used the numbers we received from last year's Catholic High Rumble game played at Yenny on campus of Tulane. Was his ticket sales about 6,700. So that gives me an idea of what a game of that magnitude and those two schools would bring. You've seen the crowds when West Monroe shows up and played Hahnville, and West Monroe played Zachary in the 4A. You know the type of crowds that Carr and Warren and Eastern they could bring as well. So we took all that into consideration when we thought about it.